Mara Ellison thought the headaches were just from too much screen time, until the voices in her head started syncing with her phone's notifications. What began as a dull hum behind her thoughts soon became something alive, something learning her every rhythm. Now, every reflection moves a moment too late, and every screen she touches whispers her name back to her. Welcome to Brainrot. I can't remember when the noise started. It must have been a few weeks ago, maybe more. At first it was faint, just a soft vibration somewhere deep inside my head, like the buzz you hear after being too close to loud music. I thought it was nothing. I thought maybe I was just tired, spending too many late nights scrolling through endless videos and staring at glowing screens until my eyes burned. But the sound didn't go away. It followed me everywhere, while brushing my teeth, while eating, even while I tried to sleep. It wasn't ringing anymore. It was humming, low and steady, like a quiet machine running behind my thoughts. The nights were the worst. I'd lie in bed in complete darkness, but the sound grew louder, filling the silence until I could feel it pulsing through my body. It matched my heartbeat, then started to fall out of sync, just slightly off, like someone was copying it but not quite getting it right. I pressed my hands to my ears, but it didn't help. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from somewhere inside me. I tried drowning it out with the TV. The flickering blue light filled my room, and the static from the speakers almost covered the hum. But when I turned the volume down between channels, the noise underneath was still there, whispering like it had its own frequency. I stared at the blank TV screen for a long time. My reflection looked pale and distant, the blackness around it too deep. When I blinked, the reflection didn't. For a few seconds, it just stared back at me with a faint curve at the corner of its mouth, like it was trying to smile. That night, I barely slept. When I woke up, my phone's camera app was open, and a video had been recorded, over 3 hours long. I didn't remember pressing record. The footage showed me lying in bed, perfectly still except for the occasional twitch of my fingers. But something was wrong with my eyes. They were open the entire time. I watched myself just lying there, unblinking, as the camera shook slightly like it was breathing. Every time I watched the footage, the hum grew louder, pressing against my skull. The next morning, when I looked in the mirror, I noticed my pupils were darker than usual, like ink spreading through them. I tried convincing myself it was just the lighting, but when I leaned closer, the surface of my eye seemed to ripple, like something was moving underneath. And then I realized it wasn't just in my head anymore. The hum was in the walls. I pressed my ear against the plaster and felt it. Vibrations, soft but alive, as if the house was breathing with me. The sound followed me from room to room, steady and patient, waiting for me to notice it. Now I can't tell which pulse is mine and which belongs to it. The noise has changed. It isn't just a hum anymore. It has rhythm, like a slow heartbeat, deliberate and steady. When I press my ear against the wall, I can almost hear a faint pattern, a kind of pulse that echoes my own but never perfectly. It feels alive. I keep telling myself it's the pipes or the wiring, something logical, something I can fix, but deep down, I know that's not true. It's too organic, too knowing. I've started noticing other things, small at first. Shadows moving a little slower than they should. Corners of the room that seem darker even when the lights are on. My reflection lingers half a second longer when I move away from mirrors, like it's stuck in a delay. And every night the hum gets louder, closer. I can feel it vibrating through the floorboards now, like the entire house is exhaling around me. Last night I woke up sitting on the edge of my bed, though I don't remember getting up. My hands were trembling and my phone was recording again. The screen showed me whispering something, but there was no sound, just that low vibration underneath everything. I watched the clip again and again, trying to make sense of the way my mouth moved. It almost looked like I was counting. The light bulbs keep dying, one after another. I replace them. But they flicker, until they go dark again, leaving me in that dim orange glow from the hallway nightlight. Even with that small bit of light, I can still feel the darkness pressing in, thick and heavy. It's like being underwater, where every sound is distant yet right beside your ear. I thought maybe it would help to leave, to just step outside and breathe something clean. But when I reached for the door, I froze. The air felt strange, dense, electric. The hum wasn't behind me anymore. It was in front of me. It vibrated through the doorknob, warm under my hand, as if something on the other side was waiting, pressing its face against the wood. I couldn't bring myself to open it. The windows don't help either. When I look out, the world seems off, like I'm watching it through a dirty lens. The trees don't move right. Their branches sway against the rhythm of the wind. The street looks empty, but the shadows stretch longer than they should, bending toward the house. I tried cutting the power at the breaker box, thinking maybe silence would bring relief. But the moment the lights went out, the sound grew even clearer. It didn't fade, it deepened, as if it had been hiding behind the electricity all along. It vibrated through the floor, through the walls, through my teeth. That's when I realized something terrible. The hum doesn't need power. It doesn't need air. It doesn't even need me to listen. It just needs to keep growing. I tried to fight back. I told myself I wouldn't let the noise control me, that it was just stress, lack of sleep, anything but what it really was. But when I tried to leave the house again, the world outside looked wrong. The sunlight felt dimmer, the sky slightly off color like a washed-out photograph. The grass didn't move in the wind, and the air was too still, too silent. I reached for the gate, but it wouldn't open. The latch was rusted shut even though it had always been smooth before. When I turned back, the house looked darker, almost breathing, its windows pulsing faintly in rhythm with that familiar sound. Inside, the noise guided me. I don't know why I followed it. Curiosity, fear, maybe both. But I began tearing through the walls. I used a knife at first, then my hands when I got desperate. Drywall dust filled the air, coating my tongue with something bitter and metallic. The deeper I dug, the louder the sound became, changing from a hum into something wet. Something alive. Behind one section of wall near the stairs, I found it. It looked like a black web of veins, thick and glistening, wrapped tightly around the electrical wires. They pulsed gently, as if carrying blood instead of current. I touched one with my fingertip, and it twitched. For a second, I could feel it. Warm, soft, alive. It wasn't part of the house. It was the house. The noise surged through me, rattling my teeth. I staggered back, but the sound didn't fade. It had moved inside me again, deeper than before. When I looked around, the lights had turned red. Not bright, just a faint crimson glow leaking from every bulb. My shadow on the floor was warped, stretched thin like it wanted to crawl away. I caught sight of my reflection in the dark window. My mouth wasn't moving, but my reflection's lips twitched, whispering words I couldn't hear. I felt my chest tighten, the hum vibrating through my ribs, syncing with the reflection's silent voice. I backed away slowly, heart pounding, but everywhere I looked, the same reflection followed. Mirrors, screens, even puddles of water on the kitchen counter. Each one stared at me with that same small, unnatural smile. The hum built into a low roar, filling my skull until I couldn't think. I pressed my palms against my ears, but the sound was already inside. Then something strange happened. For a brief moment, I saw a flash, rooms filled with others like me, all sitting in front of blank screens, faces pale, eyes hollow, their mouths moving in sync with mine. The hum was a chorus now, one voice split into thousands. When I blinked, it was gone. The walls were normal again, but the air still pulsed faintly. I could feel the rhythm under my skin, crawling, connecting. I think whatever access inside these walls is spreading, and I'm not sure it can tell the difference between itself and me anymore. I haven't slept in what feels like forever. Every time I close my eyes, I see shapes moving behind my eyelids, pale outlines flickering in the dark, faces that dissolve before I can recognize them. The hum isn't just noise anymore. It's become language, broken words forming in my head, unfinished thoughts whispering over each other until they blur into one constant murmur. I can't tell which voice is mine anymore. When I think, it answers. When I breathe, it breathes with me. This morning, I found something carved into my bedroom wall. I don't remember doing it, but the grooves were fresh, the edges of the plaster still flaking. It looked like a spiral of tiny marks, each one shaped like an eye. They seemed to pulse when I stared too long, almost breathing. I tried painting over it, but the hum grew louder, rising like a scream in my skull until I dropped the brush. When I looked again, the paint had cracked apart, revealing the same pattern beneath, untouched. The windows are useless now. The outside world flickers like a dying film reel. I can still see the street, the trees, the mailbox, but they move out of sync, repeating the same slow motion loop. I think the house is copying what it remembers. When I stand at the window long enough, I see movement behind the reflection. Shadows walking past me in the background, though there's no one else inside. Sometimes one of them stops and turns its head, as if noticing I'm watching. The air feels heavier every day. It hums like a machine running deep underground, vibrating in my bones. I tried turning off every breaker, unplugging everything, but the sound doesn't fade. It grows sharper, clearer, as though cutting through silence. It's not dependent on electricity. It is electricity. I can feel it crawling up my arms, a low static under my skin. My hands shake constantly now. I think it's moving through my veins, searching for space to grow. The mirrors have changed again. I avoid them, but sometimes I catch glimpses, my reflection tilting its head when I don't. Eyes darker than before, almost hollow. Last night, I saw something else behind me. It wasn't a shadow. It was a shape. Tall, bent, skin like stretched static, its head twitching in small jerks. It stood right behind my reflection, but not behind me. When I turned around, the room was empty, but the air still rippled where it had been. The whispers have turned into thoughts I can feel instead of hear. They press against my skull, urging me to connect, to let it in completely. I can almost understand the message buried in the noise now. It wants to spread, to reach beyond me. When I touched the wall tonight, it pulsed back, warm and steady. The veins underneath my skin glowed faintly, matching its rhythm. I think it's ready. And maybe the worst part is, I think I am too. This morning I woke to silence. No humming, no vibration, no pulse in the walls. The quiet felt unnatural, like the air had been hollowed out. My body felt lighter, almost disconnected. For the first time in weeks, I thought maybe it was over. I sat up slowly, listening, waiting for that faint noise to return. But nothing came. The house was still, too still. The floor didn't creak beneath my feet. Even my heartbeat sounded distant, muted, like it wasn't really mine anymore. I walked from room to room, searching for any sign of the thing that had haunted me. The walls I had torn open were smooth again, as if they'd never been touched. The red glow that used to seep through the light fixtures was gone. Everything was clean, calm, almost new. But the longer I stood there, the more I realized the silence wasn't real. It wasn't absence. It was listening. I found my phone lying on the table. The screen was black, but when I picked it up, it turned on by itself. A video was already playing, one I didn't remember recording. The image was grainy, static, crawling across the frame. It showed me sitting in this same room, staring into the camera. My eyes were open wide, unblinking. For a moment, I thought it was just an old clip. But then, the version of me on the screen began to smile. Slowly. Too slowly. And as the pixels twisted, I saw movement in the reflection behind me. Something leaned closer from the shadows. The screen flickered, and the image changed. Now the version of me on the screen was whispering, though no sound came out. I could almost feel the vibrations in my skull, words forming just beyond hearing. My reflection on the dark phone screen didn't match my movements anymore. It tilted its head, blinked when I didn't, smiled wider until its teeth looked too sharp. I dropped the phone, but the screen didn't crack. It just kept glowing faintly on the floor, the static breathing in and out like lungs. I looked toward the mirror in the hallway. The glass was rippling like water, faintly shimmering in the dim light. I took a step closer. My reflection was there, but it wasn't standing still. It was leaning forward, reaching out. Its hand pressed against the other side of the glass, and I could see faint lines glowing under its skin, pulsing like veins filled with light. The same pattern was spreading under my skin, crawling up my arms in perfect rhythm. Then I understood. The silence wasn't peace. It was completion. The hum wasn't gone. It had merged with me. The thing inside the walls had moved into something new. My thoughts, my nerves, the very current running through my brain. Now everything around me hums even without sound. Every screen, every reflection, every silent moment, alive and waiting. I don't feel fear anymore. Only connection. And as I write this, I can see my reflection smiling again, but this time it isn't delayed. It's perfectly in sync. If you've read this far, stop listening. Don't check the walls. Don't look at your screen too long. The silence you hear right now isn't safe. It's listening to you.